Good morning, guarda qui, a sorpresa.
Con chi siamo collegati?
Colpo di schiena.
Flavio Bonetti non c'è.
Sì, eccomi.
Ciao Flavio.
Ciao, ciao, buongiorno a tutti.
Buongiorno. Ciao.
Non mi stai riconoscendo? Di la
Sì.
Solo per un saluto perché sono in partenza.
Questa partenza è strategica.
Ah.
Sì. Salut Denis.
Hello, I am Daniel from Marseille, France.
Eccoci.
Allora Daniele.
Hello.
Salve, buongiorno.
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 What about Sandro?
Salve, buongiorno a tutti.
Buongiorno.
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 Sandro non c'è?
Ops.
Sembri un fuori onda.
Per stemperare un po' il clima.
Salve, buongiorno. Non so se la connessione funziona, volevo solo assicurarmi che fosse tutto.
C'è la signora, no?
Sì?
Non abbiamo sentito.
No? Allora, sto provando. And start.
No, la sentiamo benissimo.
Mi sente benissimo, perfetto, benissimo. Sto cercando di seguire le istruzioni per potermi connettere, ma mi sembra che funzioni tutto. Perfetto.
Sì, è tutto ok.
Benissimo, grazie.
Prego.
Sto iniziando una videoconferenza.
Stiamo aspettando. We are waiting for the connection of Sandro Dernini, who is the coordinator. Hi. Sandro.
Ciao Luigi.
Right.
Hello Sandro.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Can they hear you?
You want to sit here?
You want to
Come here.
No, this is the mic.
This is the mic.
Just ask if they can hear you.
Sandro,
Do you see me, right?
let us know when we can start.
Anytime that anyway we can make the Calcoli Gauche was supposed to be already here, but let's say to start because time is very precious, and if she will arrive, she will arrive.
What about Alessandra? Is she?
I'm here.
Oh,
Io
hello.
sono qui.
Ciao Alessandra, how are you?
Mi sentite?
Sì.
Yes, we hear perfectly.
Yes.
Ok.
Okay. Sandro, can we start?
Okay. Mary Margaret is coming probably. Okay. A couple of things before starting with the conference. Luigi Sisto speaking. Welcome everybody. A good afternoon. This is a first experience of this type of web meeting with so much participation. So we apologize for some problem rising. Anyway, it's very important in order to have a good quality of communication, respect a sort of I can say discipline. a sort of discipline, because otherwise we risk confusion or overlapping of intervention. So Nicola Maddalena is the chairman. So when you want to speak, it is possible to click on participant and raise hand in order to, but I know that there is already a sort of program of intervention that is up to Nicola Maddalena. So that's all, and please avoid to speak during the speech of the speaker. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you, Luigi. I think you will be here with us, so for any problem, you will help us managing this web conference. I would give directly the floor to Sandro Derlini to introduce this web discussion and web conference. How do we want to call it? Sandro, please, you have the floor.
Thanks, Nicola. I really thanks all of you for this first web discussion that we experimented, the format as well as the technical process. Kakoli Ghosh is there, so Kakoli is connected from her computer, correct?
Yes, I am.
Ciao, Kakoli, it's a pleasure.
Ciao, good afternoon, everyone, please.
Okay, fantastic. So this is like, for example, to this point we see then Luigi Sisto, please, then you will explain why we don't see Kakoli, but she has the video off. Okay.
You will see it now, it takes a little while.
Okay, beautiful, because you're nice to see each other.
I'll come over, you continue, please. Yeah.
Okay, then, also because on the same floor, maybe. And then there is this consultant from UPM, Arthur, connected. Arthur.
Hello.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello. I'm here. Thank you.
Hello
for the introduction.
It is Arthur, and then I would like maybe to Alessandra give a few words. This Arthur, he will be the facilitator. This for this web. And the next one, Arthur is working as a rapporteur together with Amida Labid del Siambari. But from the fifth one, from the November 5th, with Giuseppe Provenzano, and we hope also that that will be dedicated to migration. It is in the new program, revised copy that I just sent. Arthur will be the facilitator. So the chair, today is Nicola facilitator. Next week is Alexander Mebec, Gianluca Brunori. But we believe that anyway, Arthur will be, he will have a better understanding how really can operate as a facilitator in order that behind to have written the outcome of this section, of this discussion, as well as the next one, he will really try to be a facilitator as we know. First of all, is just to close. I sent a few minutes ago, so many of you don't have the possibility to read. Basically, what are the expected outputs of all these series of not a web conference, but of web discussions? To not confuse it, are not a conference. These are web discussions. What are the purpose of this discussion among us? One is passing by, a closer reading, of all the main fundings from the Palermo session, like that are participating in that discussion. In this case, are two sessions only, but very, very important. The session on number 7 on the land, water scarcity, land degradation, climate change. And the second session is that one on the organic, the challenge of the organic system in the Mediterranean by linking sugar production and consumption. Each one of this session, Palermo has produced main funding that you have, and each time we will pass through the main funding by closer reading to try to identify, that is today is the first time, which are the converging point of view, which are the common action, and aggregating them into priority transformative action work package toward a joint design of a multidimensional sustainable food system conceptual framework, a white paper, but we still call discussion paper or white paper, we'll see, within a context-specific sustainable food system approach for the Mediterranean region. One point, an outcome. The second one is very, very important, is the identification of relevant institutions like Ministerial Declaration, Regional Conference, or scientific references, scholar paper, or such as that last week in Barcelona, UPM presented a very important report on climate change in the Mediterranean that will be good already in this first discussion to have a reference identified, because in the white paper, at the end, we have the ground point on which this approach it is grounded, because as an international organization, we cannot move like we are a scientific body. It's really a project, a program or initiative that has been initiated by CIAN, FAO, and the Union for the Mediterranean in alphabetic order. And thanks, Nicola, and I pass to you the floor to run the entire discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sandro. First of all, let me say that I'm really honored to chair and to moderate an high-level panel of experts like the one which is participating to this web conference or web discussion, as said by Sandro. As you all know, we don't start from scratch, we don't start from zero, because we have important findings that arise from the Palermo conference on the different sections that have been organized there, and in particular on the section number 7 and on the section number 10 that we are discussing today. If we project this main finding,
you want the
yes, please. I think that we can start to wrap up this finding and starting the discussion coming from those. Let's go on the other one. Go ahead. Okay, these are the two sessions that have been organized in Palermo. Session number 7, which is solutions for coping impacts of water scarcity, land degradation, and climate change on Mediterranean systems. The other one is the section number 10, the challenge of organic food systems linking sustainable production and consumption in the Mediterranean. Well, focusing on the first session, of course, everybody knows the problems of water scarcity in the Mediterranean area, Mediterranean basin. We know that there are a number of pressures, like the population growth, like the desertification, like the impacts of climate change on both water demand and water supply. And these kind of drivers make the balance between water demand and water supply very, very complicated. Because on one side, we have water demand, which is going to increase with the time because of population growth, because of climate change and other drivers. And there is a water supply, which is going to decrease, again, because of climate change, but also because of pollution. In addition to that, we have other important drivers, like the role of men on the morning steady. Because I'm thinking now, for example, to the big dam that is being built on the Nile River in Ethiopia. This dam is we are speaking about a dam which is 75 billion cubic meters of water. And this dam is built on the Nile River upstream in Ethiopia. And this may cause very important problems downstream, especially if we keep in mind that in Egypt, the only source of water is the Nile River. Any reduction of water into the Nile River will cause important problems on the water supply system in the country. So all this makes very important to discuss about water and land today, because these water and land are very strictly related among them, and I'm sure that Pandi will say a few things in his presentation later on. Just for the organization of this session, I would like to ask you how many PowerPoint presentations do you have in order to allocate the right time to each presentation. Do you have PowerPoint presentation, first of all?
No, I haven't.
Is there anybody having a PowerPoint presentation? Maybe only Pandi?
No.
Only Pandi and Lina. Okay, so let's go ahead with the discussion. Okay, perfect. And let's start. Well, if you want to intervene, if you want to interact and to interrupt me, please feel free. But just to, you see, these are the main findings of the session on land and water. I'm not going to read everything because you have this on the screen. But I think that a very important finding in this list, in this shopping list, is the first one. So a regional vision is needed to valorize the existing knowledge and skills from institutions across the Mediterranean, and to create the basis for greater coherence in dealing with environmental challenges. I think this is very relevant, and I found also something very similar to that in the other section 10. So I think that starting from here, we can try to converge from findings to outcomes at the end of this web conference. I'm not going to read all these, but I would like to ask you to intervene. Maybe, Pandi, you can start with the PowerPoint presentation.
Nicola, I would also like to say something on this actually first point. It's Alessandra Sensi from
Absolutely, yes. Please, Alessandra.
Actually, for us, of course, this is probably the most important point. As you know, the UFM serves as a regional organization in order to consolidate a regional vision. And indeed, it tackled so many different issues, and apart from the more specific technical ones, also to those that are correctly mentioned in the second point, as transversal, but actually main challenge will indeed to employment, capacity development, youth, women, and so on. So specifically in relation to the first point, I would like to mention that we have, and I think this is a good opportunity to keep in mind, we have got the agreement by the 43 UFM countries, meaning all the Euro-Mediterranean countries, those countries that fall into, let's say, the UFM as political entity. So not just those bordering the Mediterranean Sea, but those that do belong to the Mediterranean region as one, to convene in 2020 a Ministerial on Environment and Climate Change. So we have started actually a process of consultation with the 43 countries already, let's say 1.5 years ago. We are actually working towards an Agenda 2030 for a greener Mediterranean. So we would like probably to put on the table this as an opportunity to have a ministerial declaration where also messages related to the work that we are carrying out are being integrated to be afterwards implemented through common joint action.
Okay. Thank you very much, Alessandra. Thank you very much. We will come on the other points. Any other intervention on the first point? Okay, so let me give you the floor. Let me give the floor to Pandit Zruli.
Okay.
Please, Pandit.
Thank you very much, Nicola. Can I have the slides of my presentation? Next. Okay. Okay, well, the next slide, please. Or I can change it by myself. The idea, questo funziona anche?
Sì.
The idea of this briefing that I will try to do is to bring it to your attention, and I'm sure that many of you already know, but it's good to remember, to stress the point of the land scarcity that we have in the region where 14% of the land is fit for agriculture, and you go to the NENA region or the MENA region, it's only 5, and you have countries like Libya that is less than 2 or 1.5. So we operate in a region with very limited land resources, and the same way as Nicola mentioned, and water resources. And on the other side, you see there is a 63% here, which bring together large areas of land that are unsuitable for biomass production, even those being deserts or rocky areas, or even areas that are sealed by urban expansion. And that is a big issue in the Mediterranean, as you all may know, because 40% of the coastal area is already urbanized. And if those trends will continue by 2050, studies say that it's going to be 50%. So this is the region. And on the other side, we have a large extension of the drylands, as they are described by the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. So especially in the MENA, you go almost 61%, and I'm talking here drylands on aridity index. Hyper arid and RS are not included. So it's a region with many issues related to land. I can also very briefly show, for example, what is the percentage of the land against total agricultural land, on how much irrigated land towards the total land available for agriculture. And if you go to Egypt, for example, it's almost 99% of that is under the irrigation, mostly on the delta. So topics like this are worthy to point out in the beginning of the discussion, because then we be able to find out also what could be the possible solutions to deal with that. And on the other side, it was mentioned already, but we have still a high population rate, especially where land and water resources are limited, and that go again mostly into the North Africa and the Near East and in the Middle East region. So all these complexities of scarcity and population growth, where resources are less, put the region into a more constraints that become more severe as time will go. Then the issue of I can point it out also, the land degradation process, which is severe in many parts of the Mediterranean. And according to some of published research, I should say, if you compare the land that was available in the 60s and that is going to be next year, we estimate that almost 8.3 million hectares of arable land has been lost, either to land degradation or to the urban expansion, because, as a matter of fact, the large expansion of sealed areas of the urban areas unfortunately happens where the best soils or the fertile soils are. And if you compare also what is the arable land per capita, because that is a critical indicator. You don't need to look at the whole surface area of Libya or Egypt. You have to look at what is the percentage within the country where they can grow crops. And that is almost half in the 60s, how that was. You can see it was 0.48 on the corner up there on the left side, is going to be 0.21. So almost half of the land has been already reduced by mostly by the increase of the population, but also by the increasing trend of land degradation and desertification, which unfortunately continues. I can mention a number of factors that are affecting, from unsustainable land use or overgrazing. We have big problems of soil and wind erosion, sand and dust storms. Right now ongoing an initiative of the UNEP to look at the sand and dust storms, and the region is one of them that is mostly affected. Drought. I'll come closely also to say a few words also what is going to happen in climate change. And all of these issues, then you have to look at the more cross-border or regional approach, which I will explain what we are trying to do to deal with these issues. And all models predict that the region will be hotter and drier. I just saw a recent paper published a few days ago, and even the Western Balkans, where I personally come from, though that we consider always excess of rainfall and water, this region also models say that the amount of rainfall will reduce. So that put a lot of hardship also on crop production and then on food security. Now to deal with this, and I am glad that also Alessandra is attending this webinar on the initiative of the FAO and Siambari. We're trying to come out with a kind of as a network or an initiative or a program. We have coined that LandmanNet, and I will briefly describe what it is. So we had the first technical workshop in Rome in February, and the objective was that we have to look at what are the key challenges that the region is facing. Some of them I already mentioned, and then the PSRR, or the theory of change exercise that we conducted, I will show you very briefly, and then to come out with some possible solutions on a regional platform. So these are some of the components that we are trying to put in this proposal. We will finalize everything by December this year, and then it's going to be a workshop in FAO to show to people and interested partners and possibly donors as well. First idea is that there are a number of sustainable land management practices available, but not everybody knows. So there is always this scaling up and telling people outside the border that there are some good management in terms of land. And to do so, you have to have a platform, a multi-stakeholder platform that facilitate the exchange of ideas and possibly also inform on what possible investment can be done in sustainable land management. We did under FAO, we have a little letter of agreement, and we conducted a very thorough analysis of what are the existing financing mechanisms that are being already. Jeff obviously is in the first place, but there are many others, and how to promote and to look also possibly the involvement of the private sector. Another issue that we find, and there is a handicap that is going on for quite some time, there are different indicators when you assess the impact of land degradation from, let's say, Italy and then Tunisia. So there is a need to come out with this regional approach in standardized indicators, and then once those have been put in place, then we can also try to look at what are the differences and how to deal with them. And finally, to enhance the implementation of sustainable land and water management. Obviously, our main goal is to combat land degradation, but also here you come with productivity and improving livelihoods and so on. I'm not going to read you the whole exercise that we made at the FAO workshop, applying the theory of change, but we have very clearly identified what could be at least the immediate, midterm, and intermediate outcomes of this. And obviously, the goal is that we should definitely try to have a more, let's say, peaceful and prosperous and a healthy in terms of food and water management and soils for the Mediterranean region. Obviously, here you have food security. There is the migration, a big driver, and then everybody knows how severe this aspect has been already affecting the whole region. Well, that's a little photo of our workshop in FAO. And then, I mean, I'm making you also a little bit of a synthesis of the work that we are doing. We presented the first draft of this LandManNet initiative in the FAO Land and Water Days event that was held in Cairo, 31st of March, 5th of April. There has been a number of the sessions where member countries, because this, I should point out also, is not a top-down approach. We're trying to bring it from the bottom, and we need the endorsement of the countries. And I should say that many of the countries that were there gave us support. Some of the, let's say very briefly, what was a conclusion of this is that the Progressive Initiative Region Network on combating land degradation in the Mediterranean was presented, was fully endorsed by all the countries that were there. I don't need now to mention all of them, but we had Egypt, we had Algeria, Morocco, Lebanon, and many others. And the idea was that this should be a program which tried to empower people to help, in the first place, farmers, land users, how they can more sustainably manage the scarce land and water that they have. And then once you do that, obviously there are additional benefits like improved livelihoods or improve the food security. I should mention also that we did present it as well, the initiative, in the UNCCD Conference of Parties that was held in New Delhi in India in September. And there were representatives from the FAO, from various Mediterranean countries that were attending the COP. And I repeat that there was no one that would say, oh, no, this is nothing that we know everything. On the contrary, there was much interest to deepen and to follow up this. Now, some of these actions at regional level, Nicola mentioned previously, these are mostly the outcomes of the Palermo conference, where the initiative was also presented there in that session 7. And there is no need that I repeat again what was said, but the focus in here is on a regional, multi-stakeholder, multi-actor approach that we don't want single country dealing on a separate way, but under the leadership of the FAO, the coordination of the actions should be done in terms of sustained land management practices and how best they can be shared. Obviously, you need also to work on harmonizing policies and strategies always at the regional level, and that is also something. And finally, we recognize that if there is a Mediterranean in a better shape, also there are global benefits to that outcome. Under the leadership of the FAO, Siam Bari, we have a strong collaboration with the WCAT, which is the World Overview of Conservation Approaches and Technologies at the University of Bern in Switzerland. Their collaboration with FAO actually goes on for many years. They've been very active in this, and we're glad that WCAT is part of the initiative. We're very close contact with UNCCD. Actually, that's why we presented the initiative at that COP. Jeff, potential donor, we still have not addressed because colleagues in FAO say it's still early to look at funding for Jeff. ICARDA is an important partner as well. Then you have the Arab Organization for Agricultural Development, we have EFAT contacts, and I repeat again, the Union for the Mediterranean is very, very important partner in the whole initiative, and I definitely appreciate and I'm very grateful for the support of Alessandra since the beginning when we started this. This idea actually came in Palermo when Miguel was there, and he listened to me part of this, and I repeat, I'm so grateful that Alessandra jumped immediately in. We're looking for possible donors, actually not us, it's mostly FAO, but there are several development agencies, GIS, and also the European Commission, which will be part of that through the Joint Research Center. Now, that is what we are trying to do and how we can fit in within these outcomes of this webinar. I don't know, Nicola, if I have more time to go in or close
go
it here,
directly to the
because we have a practical example, and that is something that we always mention that people on the other side of the border maybe don't know. So one of these lessons learned, and I go very briefly to describe you this, these are the actions that you can do it on the ground. This was a project that was funded by the Italian corporation, and Siambari was the implementing agency, along with the Desert Resource Center in Egypt. And here is the region of Matruh. It is right in the border with Libya, a very, very arid area. And if you see on the left side, there is a wadi or a watershed, totally abandoned, eroded. When I went for the first time, I thought I was on the moon. So there's nothing there. And then you see on the other side how that was reclaimed, was improved, and 13 hectares of land were given to the Bedouin communities there. So these are practical examples. Not that much money, but it is worth it to show as positive ones. And then there was a very complex project in looking also at many other aspects. I'm focusing on land and water management, and we work together with Nicola and Coppola to do all this work. But if I can mention only one thing, and in January, 2016 was a rainy year, and at the end, even in September, we had a master student who did this thesis. We still had something like 48,000 cubic meters of water that was harvested into the ground. Otherwise, would have been lost. We looked at on the sloping land. We built semicircles. We planted a number of these locally grown trees, which can also be used for grazing, but they also have some additional benefits, increase organic matter in the soil and so on. So that is how it looked like now, this wadi completely rehabilitated. And guess what, IFAD looked at, maybe also in this, I hope they did, but in 2019, along with the Egyptian government, $81 million will be invested again in the Matruh region to rehabilitate not anymore just one wadi, but I think 70 or 80 of them for a total of almost 8,000 hectares. So good examples, good sustainable land management practices that can be improved. And then I'm going to conclusions. So the conclusion is that if we want to implement this regional dialogue, it should be, of course, okay, north-south and south-north, but also south-south, because that is where people can learn more from each other. Thank you. That's what I try to.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Pandi. Any comment from the audience? I would like only to highlight two keywords that Pandi has mentioned.
Want to show something?
No, not at the moment. First is the interaction between land and water. This interaction is extremely relevant. And personally, I've seen a lot of land degradation that have been caused by misuse of water. So this happened in Syria, in Egypt, in many countries, even in my region in Italy, in southern Italy, where overexploitation, for example, of groundwater is causing the salinization of soil. So this is very relevant. And another important keyword that was mentioned by Pandi is the migration, because without land and without water, people will continue to migrate from southern to northern European countries. So this is also very relevant. We should take this into account. And this is also one of the main findings we found in the conference of Palermo. And now the floor to you. Who wants to intervene first?
Parvis, can I have some reaction?
Yeah, please, Parvis, you have the floor.
My name is Parvis Kuhavkan. I am the former Director of Land and Water in FAO. I have an experience, 30 years of experience of FAO, and I'm glad Pandi and Pasquale and all those collaborators are involved in this thing. But I think those examples, of course, are wonderful examples, and we have done so many of them successfully in the past, particularly Mediterranean area. But what I want to suggest in this context, in this specific sort of overview that coming up from Palermo, I was there and I listened to many of the intervention. I think we should have 4 essential pillars for which we are going to work on. The first one is stock taking, agroecological condition, diversities and assets, socioeconomic conditions, diversities and assets, technological innovations, diversities and assets. These are what are the, say, baseline, ground. And of course, Mediterranean area have had a lot of information, a lot of, say, writings, mappings, and everything. So we need a synthesis of this, both Northern Mediterranean and Southern Mediterranean. And of course, there will be diversities which will show up, and also the potential. Then we need to put the whole thing under an international framework. Fortunately, we have SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. Then we have International Decade of Family Farming, because most of the Southern Mediterranean region, but also Northern Mediterranean region, are family farming and smallholders. And of course, looking at the best sort of Mediterranean food system, because that's also a very important asset that we are going to work around all those assets and all those conditions. Now, to my opinion, the best synthesizer of all these areas, particularly in the context of climate change, is the Nexus concept. We worked years on Nexus. We have had big conferences in Germany, in New York. We had a lot of work, and that has been a lot of work done by FAO and other institutions, Bari, etc. So Nexus, land, of course, it is mostly water. Of course, we always put land in the parentheses. Water, food, and energy. Energy is extremely important in Mediterranean area because that is the future of improvement in Mediterranean area. Once we put all that concepts and situation in the context of climate change, the future food system would be somehow, say, related to all these things. And I think this conceptual framework, particularly Nexus, which is very attractive to Green Climate Fund, with EFAD, with many international institutions, European Union, I think we have a potential to get resources to tackle all these issues. These are some very summary that I think I could suggest, and I hope we should not forget these essentials of our framework.
Thank you very much, Parvis. Any comment? Additional comment?
Yeah.
Alessandra?
Yes. Thank you very much, Nicola, for the floor. I don't know if there is somebody else, as I just spoke, maybe if there is somebody else that wants to speak first.
Is there anybody who wants to speak first before Alessandra? Seems Alessandra, you can go ahead.
I'll go ahead. First of all, Pandi, thank you very much for your presentation and really for wrapping up. Same, let's say, pleasure from our side. Maybe just also a bit of history in terms of how and why there is a strong interest. In a certain way, the cooperation at Mediterranean level, let's say, as far as the UFM is concerned, has been very much focused on the sea, and we think actually that this focus should be rebalanced. So we really welcome in a more integrated, let's say, approach with, of course, the challenges of climate change and so on, to have land far more integrated, actually, even in the next ministerial declaration, which is why I mentioned that first and foremost. As you know, I mean, we can help as a political umbrella in that respect. Indeed, I mean, if the initiative is advanced enough, you know, we can even try to have it mentioned in the declaration itself. And with reference actually to the Mediterranean, we have a bit of a weird, let's say, separation in ours, in the sense that environment and water go under two different, let's say, ministerial declarations, but they are obviously interlinked because of the administrative actually distribution of tasks within the Mediterranean, as normally the Ministry of Water is a separate one from the Ministry, let's say, of Environment. So yet again, another opportunity through this initiative to reintegrate. In terms of history, I also like to mention that we started actually a couple of years ago a very close partnership with UNCCD, and it's where actually then we came in the sense we supported a lot the UNCCD drought initiative. We supported actually the development of some plans for countries that could not be financed under that initiative in order to reach, let's say, a critical mass of Mediterranean countries that could be part of it, as the initiative is a global initiative. That critical mass now is there, and we were actually discussing about putting together a sub-regional, regional initiative. And it's when we met, when we crossed actually with Pandi, and we thought actually that this could be the initiative. There is no need actually to create another one, but it's just a matter of joining forces. So for me, among the keywords that you mentioned, of course, there is cooperation. More we are, and more we have, let's say, the possibilities to succeed. Again, you know, the economic aspects for us are very important. On the comment made by the colleague on the Nexus, I would like actually to add that we support strongly also the water, food, energy Nexus, integrating, however, also the ecosystem dimension. So we refer to water, food, energy ecosystem. So would be, let's say, advisable also to include it here if we decide to proceed in that direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Alessandra. I would like to highlight two keywords that came from the intervention by Parvis. One is innovation, and the other one is the Nexus. Innovation is extremely important, is really extremely important, but we do not have to forget that to implement innovation, only technicalities are not sufficient. We also need to combine innovation with very important and very serious capacity development programs, because otherwise we cannot implement any kind of innovation. About the Nexus, Alessandra, you live in Spain. And Spain is a typical country where the Nexus during the modernization program was neglected. As you know, in Spain, most of irrigation systems have been modernized, moving from open channel to pressurized. And now, because the main objective was improving water use efficiency. In fact, at the end of the story, in Spain, Spanish colleagues saved, let's say, 20% of water, but in fact, as they enlarged the irrigated area, it was not a water saving. On the contrary. And then the consumption of energy as a cause of the modernization program rise something like 600%, even more than 600%. So the Nexus should always be taken into account when we speak about water saving and so on. So I would like to highlight these two aspects, and I fully agree with Alessandra that we should also include ecosystem when we speak about the Nexus, because this is very relevant. I would like also to add we should include people. We always forget the people, but people are very relevant. I remember when we have prepared the policy recommendation in the round table of water for food security and nutrition. And it was agreed among all the stakeholders involved in the Commission for the World Food Security and Nutrition. And the approach was based on two main aspects. One on ecosystem and the other one on people. So I think we should include also people in the Nexus.
Yeah, Nicola, as we are in a certain way, thank you so much actually for your intervention. As we are sort of zooming, I'd like actually to link to some again of the words that you mentioned. You mentioned indeed the efficiency, you referred to water efficiency. Indeed, one of our, let's say, pillars of work is resource efficiency at large. And one of the axes of work is indeed sustainable consumption and production into the wider green circular economy approach. So for us, actually, this is basically the baseline. And I'd like also to support your point because through our dialogue and platforms of dialogue with the countries, the point that comes back all the time is indeed capacity building. In all the firms. So even here, we think this is indeed a very important point. Actually, on the points that Pandi shown on the screen of the initiative, our specific interest and special interest is indeed on point 1, 2, and 4. On the indicators, of course, indicators are important, but let's also be aware that there are many efforts in the region about, identifying indicators since maybe 30, 40, 50 years. Out of this work, I don't know really how much we achieved, so I think we always have to be careful in proposing new indicators while we are not able even to get to few common ones. I mean, we know that the problem also of the data is still there, so this is just a sort of wording in a certain way.
Yes, please, you have the floor.
Yeah, do you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, I am Denis Leron from Aix-Marseille University, and I am the past president of the Federation of European Nutrition Societies. I would like to make a comment on these issues with a food system approach. If we look at international reports we have now from the UN system, from the IPCC, from other one, from the high-level panel of experts from the Committee of Food Security, all report bring the same conclusion, basically. If we would like to reduce the use of resources, especially land, water, and reduce at the same time the emissions of greenhouse gas emissions, we need to reduce the production and the consumption of animal foods as a general rule. In addition, all scientific papers dealing with these issues, we have more and more scientific studies published in prestigious journals like Nature, like Science. All these studies demonstrate that a diet based on plant foods compared to a diet based on animal food will save resources like land, like water, and reduce greenhouse gas emission by 40% and up to 90%. I am just finishing writing a book on that, so I have the figure. So it is a very, very important aspect. The only modulation of this rule can be found in low or middle income countries when the diet is too much poor in terms of nutrition. A small increase in animal foods could be beneficial for people. So the general rule and also this particular case, if we can say that, because there are billions of people concerned. But in that case, a small increase in animal food can be considered. So if we come back to the Mediterranean, our focus, we have a traditional Mediterranean diet with food production in the basin, which is based on plant foods. It is a model for a healthy diet. It is a model for nutrition diet. We have hundreds of studies showing that if you have a good adherence to the Mediterranean diet. You will be less overweight and obese. You will have less cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, and some cancers. Also less depression and Alzheimer's disease. So all these data are scientific data published in reputed journals. So based on that, our culture and the current scientific evidence clearly indicates that the solution in the Mediterranean area could be to a widespread development of the traditional Mediterranean diet. We have made a dated recommendation in 2011, a consortium of researchers in the area. We suggested a new pyramid exactly based on this line. And a study published in Spain last year clearly showed that in a big cohort of people, they showed that people with a high adherence to the Mediterranean diet indeed have a reduced emission of greenhouse gas emission and a reduced use of land. So, based on all this scientific evidence, I really feel we have in hands an appropriate solution, not for everything and everybody maybe, but basically we have a model that we could follow and that will mathematically reduce all these impacts and provide good food for people. And so in 2010, the meeting of the Ministries of Agriculture and Food around the CM countries clearly stated that following a Mediterranean diet pattern and follow with local production could be a right solution. Just to end, in the updated Mediterranean diet we published in 2011, we clearly mentioned that seasonal foods and eco-friendly foods should be the basis of the Mediterranean diet pattern. And so this completely fit with the finding of this session as published after the conference, that agroecological method should be developed to provide food to Mediterranean people. So I wanted to make this very, very short summary of what we know today and to have a clear direction to follow. Of course, specific aspects should be dealt with carefully, of course. But I think we have a clear direction in our area, and effort, to my point of view, should be followed this way by combining appropriate agricultural methods and also, of course, appropriate dietary pattern. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Daniel. What you said, in fact, is exactly in line with one of the main findings we have highlighted in Palermo, which is, for example, the introduction of pulses to have vegetable protein, which are very relevant and can reduce cholesterols and cancers and stuffs related to that. So thank you very much for your interventions. I know that ICARDA is working a lot on that. I don't know if someone from ICARDA wants to intervene on these points.
Yes, we do.
Yes, please.
Thank you. It's been very insightful listening to everyone. And indeed, like you said, we have done some work in terms of diversification of cropping systems within the context of the bigger food system. And we do agree that it's not just ICARDA, but many other organizations have been working in this area and others that are relevant to reduction of land degradation and overall contributing to sustainable food systems. And we also agree that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. There needs to be a consolidated effort to build on existing knowledge. Having said that, I would also like to build on, someone had said this earlier, the challenges of upscaling the technologies and innovations. Because yes, there are many innovations that are on the ground that are successful that we can include in our analysis. But also we need to acknowledge as we develop this context-specific approaches, what are some of the challenges, why they are not used, why they're not used at a larger scale or widely adopted and used in this region. And so I think it's also important to factor that in. Another point we want to highlight is also the synergies. As we look at the Nexus, also think of synergies and trade-offs between the different subsystems within the bigger food system we're discussing right now. What are the roles of the different issues concerning marketing, concerning consumption, concerning the circular economy that someone mentioned earlier, the overall production systems. So that nexus, I think there is a whole lot that we can incorporate in our analysis and synthesis. And again, with the bigger vision of, in the end, we want the people, the farmers, those ones involved in the different value chains to adopt these things. We want it in the end to be used. And so keeping that concept of outscaling within the vision, I think is also very important.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. I see Sandro. Sandro, I have seen your hand. Do you want to intervene?
Florence Segal.
Florence, okay, please.
Thank you very much. Very interesting conversation. There's 3 quick points I would like to make. I was in a CFS side event last week, which was extremely interesting, on pastoralist knowledge hub. And they were talking of pastoralist system in the Mediterranean area. And very often change in land use due to very extensive crop production have not been the best way of dealing with land in semi-arid areas. So I think we may want, my question was whether we shouldn't get these people in the conversation. My second point was about the nexus. There's another nexus that's now is getting a lot of attention, and that is the Humanitarian Development nexus. There's a lot of conflict in the Mediterranean areas. And I think that it may be a good opportunity to get those people that are engaged in what they consider life-saving humanitarian work, realize that they're having an impact of land use in that area. And we need to make sure they do not do too many stupid things, and that in a way this energy could go on to build something that makes more sense. And my last point is, you mentioned several times urbanization. I am involved in that the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact, which has been signed by a variety of Mediterranean cities. It's now 5 years, and what's interesting is that signatory cities that have committed to have more sustainable food systems, one of the things that come again and again is that mayors are regaining control on land tenure in order to relocalize agriculture production. So they're saying there's no way we will let the city expand any longer. We will work on intensifying building, but we are now going to regain land for agriculture production that has been wasted until now. So I think that getting a connection with that network would be mutually interesting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Florence. Well, in many, okay, I fully agree with you. Very often, concerning the Nexus, a lot of modernization programs are shifting from open channel to pressurized systems. And this is done in view of the magic objective to water saving, increasing water saving. And this is not always the case. And a lot of funds have been disbursed, and at the end, the results achieved by modernization programs are not the one that we were expecting. So we should take this into account, absolutely. And concerning the urbanization, I fully agree with you also on this aspect, because very often we see in many cities that cities are going to be expanded, but in fact, within the cities, there are a lot of buildings that are abandoned. So why, rather than build new buildings, we don't try to recover the existing ones and trying to save land for agriculture. This could be another things that we can take into account. Any other intervention? Because we are, we are moving to the organic agriculture. We raise the problem of food systems, and I think that organic agriculture is also very relevant to this to be discussed today. Any other interventions from your side?
Nicola, if I may, this is Icarda, the other participant from Icarda.
You have the floor.
Thank you. So first of all, I'd just like to thank you again for having our participation in this meeting. And I think the last speaker, Florence, touched on some very important points in regards to the Dry Arc Initiative, which I understand my colleague, Dr. Jacques Wary, presented at the Palermo conference. So for those who may not know, this is an initiative being led by Icarda that is seeking to build resilient and agri-food systems for food and nutrition security and employment in the dry lands. And I think this work dovetails very well with discussion certainly we're having today, and exceptionally well with the comment made on the number of countries in the Mediterranean basin that are suffering from fragile circumstances, which can impact upon land use, it can impact upon water use and management, it can impact upon migration either from the countryside to cities or from the countries themselves into other parts of the world. So first, I'd like to, in many ways, commend the forward thinking that this initiative had, that this multi-stakeholder platform has, in already linking with other ideas that are out there and already seeing how there are interlinkages, which I think is very important. Reviewing your document, I was also really pleased to see that there's already thinking around the partnerships and resource mobilization and the communication elements. Increasingly, it's important that anything we do is not necessarily a replication of work, but builds upon previous work. And with a strong partnership strategy, I think this initiative will prove much more effective in terms of the 10-year transition and work much more effectively to link with the decade of family farming, to link with other global mechanisms and things like that. So that's largely from my side, but again, thank you for having us participating in this meeting.
Thank you very much. Any other intervention? I see two names. I see Arthur and I see Paoletti, am I right?
Yes.
Any interventions from your side? Yes. Flavio.
May I? Yes.
Yes, please.
Yeah. First of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me in this very, very interesting and stimulating discussion. And I was the co-chair of the session on organic agriculture together with Denis Layron. And before this meeting, I had a short talk with Sandro Derlini. Sandro told me, you have to take a look to the different outcomes to the outcomes of the different sessions of the conference, and see where there are the connection, where there are the contact points. And I have to say that I did this exercise, and I found a lot of contact points between the session on land degradation and water scarcity and our session on organic agriculture. Just to mention some from the session of land degradation. One outcome was diversified cropping systems. Food systems should be based on diversity of farming systems. Food systems should promote agroecological cropping system, and agroecological and organic and agroecologies are sisters, or even more than sisters. And food systems should be allowed to balance a sustainable consumption with sustainable production. And during our session, also the concept note of our session was based on exactly on this. On the proposal of the organic food system as a model for improve the sustainability of the food systems in the Mediterranean area. Because there are all the elements, not only the elements based on the production aspects, because organic use, agroecological methods, and like crop rotation, multi-cropping that increase the diversity of the production, increase the diversity of the farming systems, increase also the diversity of the diet, but also can provide ecosystem services like the improvement of the soil quality, and it means carbon sequestration, it means higher water holding capacity, it means also higher fertility of the soil. It implies also, as a consequence of this, is the reduction of the use of fertilizers, for example. But on the other side, thanks also to the studies carried out in France, and in particular by Denis Lairon, we know now that the people who regularly consume organic food as a consumption pattern profile, consumption pattern that is that has a high level of adherence with the recommendations, the dietary recommendations with the Mediterranean diet. So, and we know that this kind of consumption pattern has not only a benefit impact on the health, but also human health, but also on the environment health. So it means that we have within the organic food system, we can talk about an organic food system because we have from production to consumption, and we can say that the organic food system is a model for the sustainability of food system because we have sustainable production and sustainable consumption. So I support what Denis told before about this point, the importance, the relevance
Is there another one?
No, I stopped.
Okay, sorry, Flavio.
No, okay. Yeah, I go to finish. And during the session, we also provide not only data or the theoretical aspects, but also concrete case. We presented also examples of organic local food systems. I talk about biodistricts or ecoregions, and examples that came from Egypt, the Sechem community, and also the activities that are going on in Tunisia about the increase and the promotion of the organic agriculture in that country. So I think that there are many content points between the session 7 and the session 10, and moreover, I would say that I saw, and I'm really interested in the knowledge platform showed before by Pambi, and your presentation. Thank you very much. And I think that we need to have in the Mediterranean region something like a real infrastructure, something in which we have the possibility to access data, information about the situation of the Mediterranean food system in terms not only of land degradation or water, the situation of the land use or degradation and water, the scarcity and so on, but also in terms of consumption. But we need to have something that is, how to say, to systematically collect and gather the data in order to make them available not only for researchers, but also for policymakers, in order to have not a picture of the situation, but also to have the basis for promote project programs or the development of the aspects that need to be improved or for the aspects in which we have few data or we have no data at all. That's my suggestion.
Thank you very much, Flavio. Very interesting. I was looking for this kind of intervention. In fact, at the end of this web discussion, let me call in the right way, we have to transform the main findings into main outcomes. And I think that this combination, this aggregation that you have proposed, this linkage between the session of water scarcity, the session of organic systems is very, very relevant. So we will work together later on for this kind of aggregation and combination. Another important point that you raise is the about organic agriculture is that also institutional approach is extremely important. And I would like to give the floor to my colleague Lina Alpitar, because she is coordinating an important networking which is called MOAN, which is...
sorry to interrupt. If before Lina speak that presented the second section, can you please show the main funding as you have done for the section 7, also for
yeah, absolutely, yes.
Thanks.
Luigi, can you take my presentation again and put on the screen? Go ahead. Nice. Okay. There were a lot of findings in the session 10. So I split in 2 pages. This is the first part, and this is the second part. So you see, in fact, as Flavio was saying, there are many related points with what we have done in the session 7 on land and water session. So, Sandro, can I give the floor to Lina? Any comment on these findings?
To follow a methodology.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I don't have to read all this. You know, for example, here in the first finding, we see that it is extremely important to look at social, institutional, technological innovation.
I would like really to follow that also because it's an experiment format for the others, that one of the 2 co-chair of Flavio Paretti or Dennis, very, very briefly, just introduce their main funding.
Oh, okay, you are right.
Thanks, only that.
Hey there, Flavio, you want to introduce the main findings as we did for water?
Yes, I think that...
do you want? I can leave on the screen. I can leave on the screen.
Yes, thank you. But very briefly, because
yeah, sure. You don't need to read.
I already mentioned most of them before, and also Denis said something before related to the consumption pattern, the reduction of the land and energy use. And greenhouse gas emissions related to the regular organic food consumers. I think that most important, as I told you before, that we presented real concrete examples of local sustainable food systems represented by ecoregions, and there is an example here, Biodistretto Cilento. These are really relevant, not only in Italy, but also in the rest of Europe. And as far as I know, there are some examples also in some countries of North African countries. I don't remember where now, but exactly. But I'm sure that Tunisia.
Yeah, maybe.
Yes, Tunisia. Okay. And these are a very interesting example of local sustainable food systems, because it's a kind of these are territories where the actors, farmers, consumers, the local authorities, public authorities, realize a kind of agreement for the sustainable management of the local resources based on organic and agroecological and agroecology. So, and for me, they are very relevant. And in Italy, they are the number of these biodistretti or ecoregions is increasing because now many Italian regions are launching regional regulations for the establishment of the biodistretti. And I have to say that in the region where Rome is, the name of the region is Lazio. There is a very many initiatives in this direction. But there are similar examples in other Mediterranean countries, I told you before, also in France, also in Portugal, some also in Spain, and so on. And I think that these are very, very relevant as a model of sustainable, local sustainable food systems. Another aspect that for me is really important is that during the session, we presented also the Organic Food System Program. The Organic Food System Program is one of the core initiatives of One Planet Sustainable Food System Program. And in the Organic Food System Program, we have about 80 partners now from, from scientific sector, but also we have partners like communities, the associations, and so on. SIAM is a partner of the Organic Food System Program, YAM maybe, more precisely, and also the International Network of Ecoregions. So we have within the Organic Food System Program also a network of networks that for me is really important and goes in the direction that I mentioned before when I talk about the infrastructure or something like this. Thanks to this networking action, we are promoting and developing also research projects and activities that are widespread all over the world, because the partners of the Organic Food System programs are from the 5 continents.
Yeah,
I think that I say more or less.
Well, you summarize the main.
Yeah, I tried.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Flavio. I have a curiosity, which is you know, I am not an expert of organic agriculture, but my question is, how do you manage pests in organic agriculture? Mainly alien pests, which are very resistant, coming from other countries and finding here very nice environmental conditions of humidity to live in, to live very well. How do you manage that? Is there any techniques, any positive and negative experience that you had on that?
I'm not an expert of this because I don't study this, but the principle of Organica is based on the prevention.
Maybe Lina can add something.
Yes, maybe.
Okay, okay.
That I can add just a few points.
Please, Daniel.
Indeed, it is a very, very important challenge.
Yes, I know.
During the past decades, the agricultural development has been based on machinery and inputs like chemical fertilizers and pesticides. So, due to these important inputs, there was not enough consideration of the ecosystem, of field as an ecosystem, as a farm as an ecosystem. And only inputs were considered, and only yield were considered. All the side effects of the system were completely neglected and never accounted in cost. So this system developed, but it is not a sustainable system. All the reports are telling that now. It is not clearly unsustainable. So we need to build another system to find solution to this dramatic situation regarding land degradation. Look the last IPCC report, water shortage, food security. There are still more than 900 million people with chronic malnutrition and 2 billion with nutrient deficiencies. So we need to reinvest this field and to find solutions. And what happened during the last decade is that a part of farmers and a part of consumers clearly decided to have another direction. industrial way of agriculture. So they elaborated very refined strategies for production. It started in a developed country, especially Europe, but now you can find example everywhere in the world. For instance, I spent some time in the Sahel region. I saw doubling the yield of sorghum and millets in 2 years, doubling the yield just by using agroecological techniques, with no money, with no external inputs, just by using appropriate method in this very, very difficult situation. But for example, all over the world, if you look at the history, in fact, just before 1915, all agriculture basically was organic, because there was no chemical fertilizers, there was no machinery, and there was no pesticide. So that means that most of the time, humanity was able to manage. Of course, it was not a perfect system. Of course, we need to improve. Of course, we need to find solutions, but also we need to make research to improve things. Basically, until now, almost no research have been dedicated to improving agroecological method. That means that there is a huge gap to fill and a huge margin of progress. Indeed, if you look at the last publication published 3 years ago, made a point on what about the yield of organic agriculture worldwide, taking into consideration all scientific publication, all hundreds publication. The conclusion of the study was, if we are using the best present organic agriculture system, the decrease in yield compared to conventional current yields are 8 to 9%. So we can handle that, especially if you consider that the side effect of the conventional agricultural system are not there. There is no loss of the biodiversity due to pesticide. The contrary occur. In France, there has been a study showing that in the field managed organically, plants are more resilient, attacked by fungi or by pests, and so on and so on. So the concept, the vision about organic agriculture and agroecology in the past, it is a marginal approach, a non-scientific approach. So it is completely different now, because we have a lot of scientific evidence that this system works, that it could provide a solution for most of the problem we have now. Look at France. In the south of France today, almost 20% of the whole agricultural land is organic in the south of France. So, and every year, basically, it is increasing by 10%. So, it works. It works. So the problem is that we need more research, we need more financial support for this approach, more consideration. And look, the last report for the high-level panel of experts of the Committee for Food Security from the UN system was on agroecology and associated methods. It was published this year. This year, a full report on agroecology as a solution for problems. So that clearly we are in another part of the story. And it is the future. It is not the past. It is the future. You know, and I think there is a general agreement on that, except for lobbies, which are a deep interest in continuing the present way.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, very good. Thank you, Daniel. I think that a reduction 8-9% from organic agriculture is more than acceptable in favor of the environment, in favor of the health condition of people. So what you are saying is very relevant.
Yeah, I can just add a precision. This figure is a global mean at the world level.
Okay.
What is interesting to see is that in industrialized country, the gap in yields is more important.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
but in low and middle income, the yields are much, much higher. So that means for people suffering from malnutrition, nutrition deficiencies, there is a market increase in yield when you are using agroecological method, because you protect better the soil, you save water, you have more resilient plants, you know. So regarding the aspect of food security in general, and the Mediterranean area is a really problem with food security.
Mm-hmm.
Especially important to see that yield not only could be not too much lower, but could be increased by organic practice.
Okay. Thank you. Let me give the floor to Lina. Please, Lina, introduce yourself.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Lina Albitar. I'm an agroecologist, and I'm senior officer of Siambari in charge of organic agriculture master course, as well as the knowledge unit in organic agriculture aspect. And I'm also coordinating the Mediterranean Organic Agriculture Network. I would like I would like to, before I go to present what is MOAN, I would like to start from your last conversation, Nicola and Daniel. I perfectly agree with what was said. In fact, pests and diseases, as well as weeds in organic agriculture, are not actually a problem. They become a limiting factor when equilibrium is broken in the system. So organic agriculture, which takes its basics from agroecology, so relying on agroecological principles and concepts, is able to self-maintain and self-evolve and protect itself. So actually, weeds, pests, and diseases are part of the system, but only if this equilibrium based on agroecology and biodiversity is able, let's say, to have this complexity that is the basis for prevention, as Flavio said, and control of emerging pests and alien pests. So this is the basis. In fact, I unite my, let's say, my voice to Flavio by saying that organic agriculture that is relying on diversified cropping systems, agroecology, organic sustainable production and consumption, and any of the keywords that you already mentioned at the beginning. So organic agriculture can link social agriculture as well as urban agriculture, like urban gardens, as well as innovation that is able to bring also Nexus relationship with resource use efficiency, with sustainable food system, with diversification, with the circular economy approach and ecosystem services, diversification also in plant production and consumption. So I'm trying to summarize all the key words that arise from the discussion. So simply organic agriculture based on what are the laws of nature, and we are not inventing anything new, but linking old principles and traditions, heritage, like in agroecology, by linking traditional knowledge with research in a multi-functional approach, and connection also with innovations, like used in precision agriculture, can really give sustainability and assure sustainability in farming system, in organic farming system. So I come back to what were the main findings of Palermo, if unfortunately I was not able to attend. And I can see synergies not only between sessions 7 and 10, but also with 12. And well, what I can say is the challenges for organic farming systems are the ones. that are related to the input substitution system, which is linked to commercial organic agriculture that is challenging organic agriculture. So we have a need, absolute need, to go to introduce and link agroecology, biodiversity, and organic agriculture in a really to reach sustainability, not only in the management but also in the planning of the farms, of the systems. So this is what I feel myself to say, and what is also comes out actually every year from the MOAN survey, and I will take some few minutes to present what is MOAN and its findings. The fact that organic agriculture is still a niche production and market oriented in the Mediterranean. So we have to, as Nicola said, to create capacity building, to create research, as you also said, to boost the organic sector. We have to help developing the local market and raising awareness among all the community members and especially decision makers. And this is what we are trying to do with MOAN, and I'm happy that we are uniting efforts by creating a network of networks, like with OFSP, INER, UPM, UFM. I had the chance also to work with them a couple of weeks ago, and MOAN, and to create this multi-stakeholder platform. So if Luigi, I may go to show or to refresh, because you had from Patrizia Pugliese, my colleague, a brief presentation of MOAN. Just to recall that MOAN was established in 1999, so we talk about 20 years so far. And MOAN is an institutional platform gathering 24 ministries of agriculture in the Mediterranean area. Is a tool to promote and boost the organic agriculture sector, and to strengthen the Euro-Mediterranean partnership. MOAN started in 1999 as a network of experts, but in 2003, following the Euro-Mediterranean Ministerial Conference held in Venice, Ministerial Conference in Agriculture, where 28 delegations of ministers of agriculture met in Venice, and in the recommendations, organic agriculture was seen as a main factor to develop the both social and economic sectors in the Mediterranean area. So it was recommended at that time to create a platform for the development of organic agriculture. For that aim, Siam Bari, that had already launched the platform, decided to tune it into an institutional network serving decision makers. So in 2006, MOAN became an institutional network, and it was enlarged to cover in the time 24 Mediterranean countries, reaching that in 2017 its complete identity. So the action areas of of MOAN mainly tackle the data collection and analysis and publication. We are in need, as you said, Flavio, we are in need into collecting data. And when we started in 1999, we hardly were able to find reliable data on organic agriculture, and really very few data were available, and not only unreliable, but sometimes also contradictory. So MOAN has become a platform collecting data. We are the unique source that is really able to produce this reliable data yearly. We work on a regulatory and policy framework for the Mediterranean area to be harmonized also with the EU regulations. We work on institutional capacity building and especially on the promotion of the Mediterranean identity of organic agriculture, especially linked to the Mediterranean diet worldwide. MOAN structure is based on the General Assembly, composed of 24 representatives of the countries, member of MOAN, representing officially the ministries of agriculture in the countries that act as deliberative and policy-making organ. The secretariat is based at Siambari, where we coordinate, manage, and assure fundraising. And we have ad hoc task forces that are established on specific issues, technical issues when needed. The objectives of MOAN are to encourage from one side the networking, not only among the member countries, but also in the countries, with research, professional entities, decision makers, so ensuring public and private partnership, to promote the sustainability of the organic food system, to contribute to realize an inclusive growth relying on sustainabilities and identity of the specificities of organic agriculture. Achievements, we meet annually, so we had so far 11 annual meetings. We co-organized and participated in 12 international workshops and conferences. We were involved also in scientific publications on producing research, which are really lacking and bringing additional value to organic agriculture production and consumption. We work yearly on producing periodical reports on statistics, together with the Master of Science on Organic Agriculture, organized and coordinated by me at the Institute of Bari. We try through the master thesis to support research and governments. We took partnership in the past in 2 EU projects, and we are newly part of additional 2. We created several networkings, and we are managing a website where you can see many achievements and results. These are some pictures about what were our annual meetings in several countries since our foundation in 2006 until last October in Jordan. We have started lately in 2017 also a tight connection with IFOAM EU group, especially for what concerns the application of the new EU regulation by 2022. So we are helping all Mediterranean countries to update their national regulation where existing and harmonizing them with the EU regulation. These are some of the international conferences, and if you remember also in 2012 in Malta, we collaborated also with you on GIs and organic agriculture with the support of Roberto and the FAO. We collaborated with IFOAM at all levels, with TP Organics. We have tight relationships, but also in the Mediterranean on biodistricts, on pest and management conferences, on for fertility management, and we always go look for the connection between organic agroecology, as I always said, and GIs, geographical identification products. These are some of the publications, and we are now an observatory in the framework of the World of Organic Agriculture yearly book published by FIBL and IFOAM, and we care about the section related to the Mediterranean area. We took part into 2 important EU projects like Organic Data Network and Mind the Gap. The others are publications of MOAN. In the framework of the master program of organic agriculture, as I told you, we are supporting MOAN by working on institutional framework and regulations for different countries. You can see Egypt, Tunisia, Algeria, and Palestine. So giving an institutional support to MOAN countries. And these are the last 2 projects that we recently implemented. The one on my right is the TBiomed project. It was financed by the Italian Ministry of Agriculture and ISMEA and Siambari, and it worked especially on linking GIs and organic agriculture in 6 countries of MOAN. And the last but not least is the one that we newly have approved. It's in the framework of ENI CBC project, and I had the chance a couple of years ago in Rome to meet not only the ENI managing authority but also representative of the Union for Mediterranean, and we discussed about what is the aim of this project, coordinated by the Ministry of Agriculture in Jordan, having some MOAN countries and Siambari, and we have SICEM as a model also in this project. We have 3 ministries of agriculture: Jordan, Jordan, Lebanon, and Tunisia. And we have also the Ministry of Agriculture of Greece, the Apulian region of Italy, and we have Chamber of Commerce of Spain and in Lebanon. We have SICEM from Egypt, and we have other farmer associations and producers in Tunisia, Lebanon, and Jordan. The aim is to, the project is called Organic Ecosystem. The aim is to create a Mediterranean ecosystem, like a platform, collecting or connecting public and private entities. MOAN, of course, is giving it its support, and it links the production, it links the processing, it links science, so research, especially giving to young generations the possibility to be on innovative value chains. So youth and women are giving a very important role, as well as creating fundraising with Horizon initiatives or EU frameworks for funding. So this is briefly what I wanted to bring you. I will not go into the data of what MOAN brought, but I can tell you that 13% of the total world area is in the Mediterranean. Of course, it is mainly present in EU rather than in southern and eastern Mediterranean countries. We have a lot to do in the Mediterranean because there is a room for amelioration. There is a room also for exchanging, as we are doing in the framework of MOAN, exchanging experience, mainly from the EU to the third Mediterranean countries, but also among the non-EU countries. Like, for example, in Tunisia, we have a very outstanding sector developed, especially from an institutional point of view. So we have a national action plan, we have a national regulation, and other countries where the private sector is developed, like, for example, SICEM, or in Lebanon. And the aim is, let's say, to favor this exchange also with other networks to be able then to feed the multi-stakeholder platform. And I'm available for any further question.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Lina, congratulations for the work you are carrying out within the context of MOAN, especially in the implementation of policies, orienting policies and so on. We already said that policies are very relevant if we want to implement any kind of technology and innovation. And also you raised the importance of research, again, and the importance of reliable data collection. I think all researchers are facing the problem of reliable data collection. I'm personally crazy with reliable data collection because it's very strange to say, but there are no enough data, reliable data on water resources. I mean, in terms of water withdrawal, water availability, water consumption, even definitions are not clear, and we should do something to clarify these aspects. We are going close to the end of this very interesting web discussion.
I have a
please, I see only one name on the screen that I didn't hear, which is Arthur, and then Alessandra.
Yeah, but, scusami, Nicola, it's missing 10 minutes. Methodologically, I have a problem. How do you want to resolve, how to compress, to identify the common main finding, the outcome in 10 minutes, because we have only 10 minutes. Okay, we have understood the other story. But now I have to go to the next web conference next week by bringing what from this discussion came from in the convergence point. I see that Flavio Pori wants to speak, Arthur is the reporter, it's fine. But now how do you think to identify the converging point in order that we can close this first web discussion? Because if not, we don't get the point.
Yeah,
Sorry.
don't worry, Sandro, don't worry. Everything is under control. Everything is under control. I will try to wrap up what we said and how to combine different findings.
By which main finding, which one? The next one will be numbers, so it will be easy. But now, which are the reduction of this shopping list? Thanks.
Absolutely, yes. It's something that we don't need to finalize right now, but I can wrap up on that. Don't worry. Just a minute. Let me give the floor to Alessandra, and then and then I will elaborate on what you say. Alessandra, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll be very short. I will not take too much time. Definitely, maybe just seeing the type of presentation, maybe we should have also done the same, but indeed time is what it is. Very interesting also. Lina, again, what I wanted to stress that I think it would be important to tackle also within this conversation, but again, we don't have time. Never mind, we can continue also following up with the emails and exchanges is indeed to look at the wider market. I mean, some colleagues even before Lina intervention mentioned about the production and consumption side. So apart from the good model that organic agriculture can represent, there is still an issue of, again, in this case, of critical mass, how to enter the entire market. So you cannot, in my opinion, look at it just as a single model without considering why it hasn't it has expanded, in my opinion, it's growing, but we need to go by facts. It could expand much more, and why doesn't it happen? And that because of all the, let's say, agro-food overall market. So the approach has always been, at least on our side, to tackle production, but nowadays to expand more on consumption, exactly to influence the market. Now, how much consumers on their own, and this goes back to the issue of people, awareness, and so on, can influence the market, it's another issue, in my opinion, that should be more highlighted within this discussion on sustainable diets. To conclude, Lina, you mentioned the UPM, you mentioned you have been in contact with whom?
Remember the name?
With there was I don't remember the name. She's a girl in charge of, she was at the ENI, but I can tell you the name, but she put me in contact with Provenzano.
Okay, because what we could do is also, let's say, to follow up on this within, as I was mentioning, the wider green circular economy, let's say, overall discussions that and transition that we are discussing with the countries. So we could fit there. I leave the floor. Sorry for taking more time.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Can I say something? This is Kakuli here.
Very briefly, because we have
Yes.
to go to the conclusion.
I know Sandro is absolutely right. So thank you very much. It's been very interesting learning, listening to all of you. Two main points, looking at it from a FAO perspective, that I thought I would hear, but I'm hoping it will come out later. When we are talking about land, water, integration, nexus, as well as agriculture, first thing is that we have to look at agriculture as a whole. Livestock, I didn't hear much about livestock. I think this is essential when we are talking about it. And even more importantly, in terms of landscape approach, because here we are talking of continuum within the whole thing, from production to consumption, within the sustainable food systems approach, territorial approaches, and so forth. So I know you mentioned people are very important, but I would imagine that in shaping and framing the conversation and going ahead, a landscape approach would be very important, and so that we are looking at a comprehensive approach in terms of how we are managing sustainability. The second important point is to consider not one or two, like an organic or other, as something as a flag, but rather as a milestone in the journey, because there are multiple options and multiple areas depending on the availability, depending on policy choices, markets, so forth, which need to be considered within the food system, food production approach. Particularly on production, issue of inputs, issues on related to strengthening pest management, farming systems management. Again, I did not hear that much in terms of desert management, arid lands management, which is also very much part of Mediterranean. But anyway, this is just a small few thoughts I wanted to share with you. I'm sure we will get to it in the next sessions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So as a methodological approach, now we are at the conclusion of this web discussion. I would propose, okay, we already collected a number of information coming from the different speakers, and I would propose to wrap up very quickly what we said, and then to prepare a document by transforming the findings into outcomes from the next web discussion. Sandro, this is my proposal. Instead to rush now with the outcomes, let's make a proposal. Let's take time to elaborate on that in the coming days. Flavio already combined a number of points of findings. So,
perfect. Thanks. Good solution.
What do you think?
I think that is very good. Thanks.
Yeah, I see that for the section 7, land and water, we had 12 main findings. I think we can combine these 12 into 4 main outcomes, and you can use such a 4 outcomes for the next conference. But we can make an I think that more or less the same thing can be done by Flavio and the other colleagues for the other session. But I think we can make an extra effort together to see what we can combine between the two sections, 7 and 10 together, to give to Sandro, to be used as input for the next web conference. Sandro, if you like, we can. I leave you the floor for the conclusion.
Thanks, Nicola. I know that you are leaving.
Before you conclude, please. This is Beza from Akada. If you can I say something before you conclude?
Yeah, please.
Sure.
I wanted to say something about linking 7 and 10, and I wanted to highlight in your deliberation, in your future deliberation, as you connect the two, that from our perspective, our work in diversifying systems and the effects and the projects that we do to align with sustainable production and consumption in terms of biofortified crops, in terms of developing improved seeds that are resistant to biotic, abiotic stresses, the effect on water quality, the effect on soil, the nitrogen fixation, and so forth. They are very linked with what our colleagues who are working in the organic farming component about. They're seeing the extreme best case scenario. Ours refers mostly to the majority, the wider users, at least in the Mediterranean southern part, who can't be involved in at a large scale level organic farming. The benefits are kind of similar, what we're both aiming for. And I just wanted to highlight the similarity, so it will be included in your future deliberations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Beza. Just 1 second.
May I just highlight the really the need to also merge or combine 10 and 12, because 10 is on on organic, 12 is on agroecology. I don't see them separate.
Okay,
so I would go for synergy.
This is the first web discussion we organize. I'm sure that at the end we will come with a unique document. Dario, Sandro, correct me if I'm wrong. And of course, a lot of synergies with the other working group will be taken into account. Sandro, please, you have the floor.
Okay. First of all, this first web discussion was built on the availability of the participant on this date. And Pascal Bergeret and Florence Tartanac, they are the co-chair of the section on agriculture. They were not disponible for today. So this is done on many others section built on where the people are booked to be able to participate. And this is why it's so important that today we have some outcome from these two sections, because it will be used by the others. To Bezayet, the caller from Icarta, I would like to really highlight strongly that today Pasquale Steduto, that is with Nicola La Maddalena, co-chair of the session, moved to Icarta. At the time it was FAO. To this point, it's very important to liaise in reference to what just you said, no Bezayet, to us, not to keep in mind us, to bring you in this us with Pasquale, because Pasquale will join. I have really to thank everybody, but particularly Nicola La Maddalena, that tomorrow morning is leaving very early. Pandi, that is really an honor to have him today. You know, thanks a lot, Pandi, you know, that you gave. And Lina, that just discovered the last moment. And everybody that is participating, but this was done at the last moment. Okay, and then we build by having what Nicola said. This section, when Nicola is going to wrap up, of course, is going to do with Pasquale Steduto. Of course. Yeah. Of course, the participant at that session, they are enjoying the reduction. Of course, Lina finally is going to interact with the organic group with Mohan, because she is now related to Flavio Paoletti, to Dennis Leron, but we have a note for the next time to showcase of our own project, because already came out very strongly. Two main projects, they have the quality to be scaling up. One is the network on land degradation, is one of the main network projects to be scaling up in the framework of the multi-stakeholder platform. And the second, clearly in the Mediterranean, is called MOAN. That is really something on which is going to be agreed at the international level by the three main organizations that initiated the process to be inclusive with the other stakeholders. Today, we had really like a showcase of a sun project, strongly presented by Siam Bari, because these two are related to Siam Bari and FAO, the first one, and to Moan, the second one. Also, CARDA is involved. It's a stronger coalition. We need a project that allowed to create networking on network. That was good, but we need before next Monday to deliver not only to me, but to Gianluca Brunoni and Alexander Maybeck, who are taking care to have facilitated, to moderate the next session. In the meantime, Arthur, the facilitator, is trying to understand how he can operate under the direction of Alexandra Sensi, and also Amid from Siam Bari can give his note as a reporter connected directly to Arthur. In the meantime, as we said, for this first experiment, Arthur and Amit has to deliver to Nicola Lamadenia, to the chairperson every time, their draft note, in order that the chairperson, the model is chairperson or facilitator, will in some way cleared to be forwarded to the entire network. I am sure that we will arrive to the end of November with Jamie Morrison, as did in Palermo, to be able to wrap up and to have some kind of common understanding where we are going on. So I would like to thank everybody for this experiment.
Thank you very much. It was really an experiment, but I think it was successful. It was a pleasure to discuss with all of you, to have inputs from you. And let's be in touch to finalize the outcomes for the next web discussion. Thank you very much to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before closing the session, I invite the CARDA colleagues to click on Start Video in order to see your face, to show your face.
You say that again.
And so, Miss Glosh, if you want, if you want.
Very nice. Good, great. You should have said at the beginning.
No, because there are not constraints or limitations with this app. Okay. So you can move on Start Video without problems of traffic and limitations. Okay.
Yeah, we've tried to join the video.
Ciao.
Ciao, Sandro.
Okay.
Okay. Bye. Ciao.
Bye. Vabbè.
Alcuni pensano che è tipo Skype, che se tu metti il video vai a aumentare invece questo sistema non ha problemi.
Luigi? Hi, Sarah still speaking here. To the reporter, I just would like to connect to you perhaps on a WhatsApp or Skype so we could exchange our contact details, because I'll need to clarify a few technical things with you.
Okay.
Okay, now we could of course close the recording, and then if you could connect, provide me with your number. I will call you to WhatsApp.
Okay. I will send you my coordinates in order to meet again and to speak about this technical aspect that you need to clarify.
Exactly. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All the best. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao. Senti, ma se uno clicca su... Non è che si vede solo quello, no? Non succede. Chi ha lasciato qua la... Questo è l'unico... Guarda, Nico. Vabbè, lascio a te.
Sì, fammi chiudere bene. Poi ti dico cosa dobbiamo fare con il video. Adesso lo registro qui sopra.
Ciao. Mi andava di inquadrare
Allora, vabbè, siamo rimasti noi.
Sì. Io credo che sia andata bene, no?
Ci sembrava che cosa? No, che amico c'è per me. Posso lavorare da... Sì, assolutamente. Sì, ok.
Funzionare il sistema.
Scusa Nicola, anche domando a te, per conoscenza per Roberto, Sandro, Pandi, vabbè. Ah, ok.